My name is Emily Carter. For most of my adult life, I thought my father-in-law, Richard, was the closest thing I ever had to a second father. He helped us move into our house. He fixed things around the yard. He babysat our daughter, Lily, whenever we needed him. He was the kind of man everyone described as steady, responsible, trustworthy. But trust is strange. It feels solid, until the day it isn't. And sometimes, the only one who senses that collapse before it happens is your dog. It started on a windy Thursday morning in early March, just after the snow had melted. I was in the kitchen packing Lily's lunch while Rex sat by the sliding glass door, staring into the backyard with an intensity that made me glance twice. "What is it, boy?" I asked. He didn't move, didn't blink. His ears were stiff, his tail still. I knelt beside him and followed his gaze. Everything looked normal. The small lawn, the old wooden storage shed, the wind chimes on the porch. But something had Rex on edge. "Probably a raccoon," I muttered. I stood, zipped Lily's lunchbox, and grabbed my keys. "Come on, girl," I called, but she didn't answer. "Lily," her voice floated faintly from the hallway. "Mommy, Grandpa Richard was here this morning." That made me stop. "What? When?" "He knocked on my window," she said innocently. "He said he was looking for something in the backyard." My chest tightened. Richard had a key to the house, yes. But knocking on my daughter's window? At 7 in the morning. "Sweetheart," I said calmly. "What exactly did he say?" "He said not to tell you. He said grown-ups do surprises." The hairs on my arms rose. Rex stood up suddenly, tail straight, posture alert. He barked once, sharply, then ran to the back door, nudging at it with urgency. "Rex, what's gotten into you?" He barked again, louder. Then, something I had almost never seen him do, he took my sleeve gently in his teeth and pulled, not aggressively, not in panic, purposefully, as if saying, "Come, now." I opened the sliding door. Cold air rushed in. Rex shot outside toward the shed like a bullet. "Rex, wait!" I hurried after him, heart pounding. The shed stood in the far corner of the yard, old, faded, and usually locked. Richard kept tools in there, old lumber, extra gardening supplies. At least, that's what I thought. Rex reached the shed and began scratching the base of the door violently, whining and growling at the same time. A sound of frustration mixed with warning. "What are you trying to show me?" I whispered. I grabbed the handle. It didn't move. Locked. Which was normal, but the padlock was new, shiny, heavy, not the old rusted one Richard always used. "Why would he change the lock?" I murmured. Rex growled and circled the shed, sniffing along the boards, pushing his nose against the gaps. And on the ground, nearly hidden under fallen leaves, I spotted something sticking out from beneath the wall, a folded corner of paper. I crouched. "Rex, what is this?" He pawed at it gently. I tugged it free. It was a piece of a document, thick legal paper, torn from something larger. And on the corner of that paper were printed two words that froze me in place. "Property deed." My breath caught. What is a deed doing out here?" Rex nudged me again, more urgently. "You want me to—" I swallowed. "You want me to open it, don't you?" He barked softly. My hands trembled as I unfolded the torn document. It was the last page of a property deed transfer. Our address, our parcel number, our names. But the signature line. My name wasn't there. Only two words sat on the signature line. Pending owner transfer. And below it, Richard Carter, my father-in-law. I felt my stomach drop. No, this has to be a misunderstanding. Because why would Richard have a deed transfer document with his name? Why would it be hidden in a locked shed? Why would he tell my daughter not to mention he came into our yard that morning? Why would Rex drag me here? Why would... Rex suddenly stiffened. His ears shot straight up. His gaze locked onto something behind me. I turned and felt ice crawl up my spine. Standing at the edge of the yard was Richard, hands in his coat pockets, expression unreadable, watching us. "Emily," he said evenly, "we need to talk." Rex stepped in front of me instantly, and for the first time in 8 years of knowing him, Richard didn't smile, not even a little. Richard's shoes crunched on the frosty grass as he stepped into the yard. I stood frozen, the torn deed page trembling between my fingers. He shouldn't be here. Not like this. Not silently watching his daughter-in-law tear open a secret he'd clearly tried to bury. Rex planted himself in front of me, shoulders tense, low growl vibrating through his chest. Richard raised his hands slightly. "Easy, Rex. I'm not here to hurt anyone." My voice cracked. "Why do you have a deed transfer with your name on it?" He exhaled sharply, like a man caught in something he wasn't ready to admit. "Emily," he said, taking one slow step closer, "let's go inside and talk." "No," I said. "Explain it here." His jaw tightened. Rex growled louder. Richard glanced at the shed behind me, his eyes sharpened. "You opened that?" "No," I snapped, "because you changed the lock." Silence, a heavy, suffocating silence. "You weren't supposed to see this yet," he finally said. My stomach twisted. "You're trying to take our house." He closed his eyes, rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I'm trying to protect it. From me? From us? From what?" My breath fogged in the cold air. "Protect it from what, Richard?" His gaze drifted past me again, to the shed, to the corner where the foundation met the wall, a place Rex had been scratching. "Emily," he said quietly, "I didn't come here to fight, but this is more complicated than you think." Rex barked sharply, snapping the tension like glass. Richard flinched, then something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or regret. "Please," he said, voice dropping lower. "Just come inside. Let's talk where Lily can't hear." My heart hammered. "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the truth." Richard stared at me for a long, heavy moment. His voice changed, calmer, colder, deliberate. "All right," he said. "You want the truth? Fine." He stepped back and pointed at the shed. "It's your husband." The air left my lungs. "Michael," I whispered. "What does he have to do with this?" Richard scanned the yard like he expected Michael to appear out of thin air. But Michael was at work, out of state for 3 days on a construction job. "Your husband has debt, Emily," Richard said. "Dangerous debt. Debt he tried to hide from you." My knees weakened. "Michael? Debt?" "No. He would never—" "Would he?" "No," I whispered. "There's no way. He would have told me." "He didn't," Richard said, voice firm. "And it's gotten out of control. I've been trying to buy the house before someone else comes to claim it." My pulse pounded. "That doesn't make sense. You tried to put your name on our deed to protect you," he snapped. Rex snarled, sensing the rise in his tone. Richard lowered his voice immediately. "I was going to transfer it back once everything was handled." I shook my head. "This sounds insane. None of this adds up." Richard sighed heavily. Then he said something that made my blood turn cold. "They were here 2 nights ago." My breath caught. "Who?" "The men Michael owes." The shed suddenly felt like it was crushing the entire yard with its weight. "I heard them," Richard said quietly. "They were in your backyard, checking the windows, talking about whether the house was worth anything." My vision blurred. "And you didn't tell me?" "I tried," Richard said. "That's why I came by early this morning, but you weren't awake." "You knocked on Lily's window." His face paled. "I didn't want to scare you." "You scared her." He opened his mouth, then closed it, regret flooding his eyes. "Emily, I'm trying to fix Michael's mistake before it reaches you." My heart thudded painfully in my chest. All of this, was too much. But Rex wasn't watching Richard anymore. He turned sharply toward the shed, stared, growled, deep, long, dangerous. "What is it?" I whispered. Rex pressed his nose to the bottom of the shed doors again, scratching, whining, pushing insistently. "Rex, enough," Richard said, voice shaking slightly. "There's nothing inside." But Rex didn't stop. He barked, sharp, sudden, and then, with all his strength, he smashed his shoulder into the shed door. The padlock rattled. Richard grabbed my arm. "Emily, don't open it." I jerked away. "Why?" His voice trembled. "Because you won't like what you find." Rex barked frantically. I bent down and put my fingers under the loose edge of the shed's wooden panel. Richard rushed toward me. "Emily, wait!" But Rex leapt between us, forcing him back. My fingers closed around something, a hidden compartment. I lifted the board and saw A black leather folder, thick, heavy, stuffed with documents. My pulse surged. I pulled it out, dirt falling around my shoes. Richard squeezed his eyes shut. "Emily, please." I opened the folder. Inside were debt collection notices, loan agreements, threat letters, copies of our mortgage, and a full deed transfer, already filled in, with Richard's name and Michael's signature. My stomach dropped. "He signed it," I whispered. "Oh my God, he already signed it." Tears blurred my vision. Richard swallowed. "I was trying to protect you and Lily. Michael begged me to handle it quietly. I didn't want you to be hurt." A sob escaped my throat. Rex pressed against me, sensing my collapse. Richard stepped forward again, voice breaking. "Emily, you weren't supposed to find out this way." I looked up at my father-in-law through shaking breath. "But I did," I whispered, and Rex made sure of it. My hands trembled as I clutched the folder against my chest. The wind stung my face, but the cold was nothing compared to the burning in my throat. Michael signed the deed. He knew. He hid it. He let his father take over the house behind my back. And Rex, my dog, had tried to show me long before anyone said a word. Richard reached out gently. "Emily, please, let me explain." I stepped back. "No, I want to hear it from him. I want to hear Michael say why he put us in danger." Rex growled softly, standing between us, refusing to let Richard get any closer. "Emily," Richard's voice cracked. "It's not just the debt, it's who he owes." The air felt sharp suddenly, like the world was leaning in. "Who?" I asked. Richard swallowed hard. "They're not just collectors, they're people who buy debt, dangerous people, organized." My heart hammered in my chest. "And they want the house? They want collateral," he said grimly. "And they don't care who gets hurt." Rex's ears shot up. His head snapped toward the driveway. Then he barked, fierce, explosive, warning. "Rex, what?" A dark SUV rolled slowly to a stop at the curb, engine running, tinted windows. Richard's face went white. "No, not now," he whispered. "They weren't supposed to come today." My breath hitched. The passenger door opened. A tall man stepped out, black coat, hands gloved, expression stiff and unreadable. The kind of man who looked like he could walk through a wall without blinking. Another man exited the driver's side. "Emily!" Richard grabbed my arm in panic. "Get Lily. Go inside. Now!" Rex lunged forward, barking so intensely the men paused mid-step. The taller one lifted a hand casually. "Relax. We're not here for trouble." His calmness made it worse. "We just need to finish paperwork," he said. "Michael told us everything would be ready." I froze. "You spoke to my husband?" "Sure did," the man said. "He said his father would hand the property over today." My blood turned to ice. Richard stepped in front of me. "She didn't know anything about the transfer." "That's not my problem," the man said flatly. "The deadline is today." Rex stood in front of me, tail straight, body tense, eyes locked on the stranger. The man glanced down at him. "Call off the dog." "No," I snapped, voice shaking. "He stays." The man smirked faintly, like he enjoyed the defiance. Richard's voice trembled. "Look, she has a child in the house. Let's take this somewhere else." "That's exactly why we're here," the man said coldly. "People make decisions faster when they have something to lose." My breath stopped. Rex barked again, louder, sharper, stepping closer to the men, hackles raised. One of them sighed. "This is getting messy." Richard turned to me, eyes desperate. "Emily, go inside, lock the door, do not open it for anyone." "But you—" "I'll handle them." But he didn't sound confident. He sounded terrified. Rex suddenly growled deeper, the kind of growl that comes from a place beyond instinct. He positioned himself fully in front of me, blocking my body with his. The taller man stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need the deed." I held the folder tighter. "You're not getting anything." His expression hardened. "That's unfortunate." He took another step. Rex lunged, not to attack, but to shove me backward, forcing distance between us and the men. His body hit my legs hard enough to push me toward the porch steps. "Rex!" I gasped. He barked aggressively, every muscle vibrating, daring them to come closer. One of the men reached into his coat. Richard shouted, "Stop!" Rex snarled, a vicious primal sound that echoed off the fences. But the man pulled out a folder. "Last chance," he said calmly, holding out the paperwork. "We finalize today, or your husband's problem becomes your problem." My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear. Richard whispered urgently to me, "Emily, go." But I didn't, because suddenly, from inside the house, Lily screamed, "Mommy!" My blood turned to stone. I spun toward the back door. "Lily!" Rex bolted instantly, racing toward the house, tearing across the yard like a missile. "Emily, don't!" Richard shouted behind me. But nothing else mattered. Not the men in the yard, not the deed in my hand, not the danger pressing in, only Lily's voice, high-pitched, terrified. Quivering, I ran after Rex, stumbling, heart slamming into my ribs. "Lily, I'm coming!" Rex reached the door first, scraped his claws against it, then he froze. His head whipped to the left, toward the side of the house, toward the open laundry room window. Then he charged, tearing across the deck, barking so violently it didn't sound like him anymore. I followed his sprint and saw a shadow slip inside the house. A man, not Richard, not the collectors, a third man. One who had gotten inside while the others distracted us. My scream ripped from my throat. "Rex, get him!" Rex hurled himself toward the open window. And the real nightmare began. Rex hit the side of the house like a storm. His paws scraped against the siding as he launched himself toward the open laundry room window, barking so violently it sounded like the house itself was screaming. "Lily!" I cried, sprinting after him. "Lily, answer me!" I stumbled through the back door, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The house felt wrong, too quiet, too still, too dark. Then I heard it, a muffled whimper. "Lily, inside." "Lily!" My voice cracked. "Where are you?" Rex didn't hesitate. He tore through the hallway, nails skidding on the hardwood, nose low, tracking something I couldn't see. He ran past the kitchen, past the living room. He stopped at Lily's bedroom door. It was halfway closed. He growled, deep, furious, and shoved it open with his shoulder. My blood ran cold. A man in a dark hoodie was inside. One arm was wrapped around Lily, holding her tight against his chest. The other hand was rummaging through her dresser, stuffing something into his pocket, small jewelry maybe, but his eyes were on the door. He froze when he saw Rex. Lily's face was soaked with tears. "Mommy!" Everything in me broke. "Let her go," I said, voice shaking. "Right now." He tightened his grip on her. "Back off," he hissed. "I just need leverage, then I'm gone." Leverage my daughter. Rex's growl rose into something I had never heard from him, a terrifying rumble that vibrated through the floor, through my bones, through the air. The man yanked Lily closer, hiding behind her small body like a shield. "Call off the dog!" he shouted. "No," I said, tears streaming down my face. "He's the only thing standing between you and us." Rex stepped forward, slow, controlled, shoulders broad, teeth showing. The man's eyes darted. "Don't be stupid," he spat. "You want the kid hurt? Because I'll—" He never finished. Lily squirmed, just a little, twisting in his arms as she sobbed. "Mommy, I'm scared." Rex moved. He didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, didn't overthink. He exploded forward, a blur of black and tan fur, a force of pure instinct and purpose. "Rex, no!" He launched himself sideways, not at Lily, not at her head, but at the man's arm. His jaws clamped down, the man's forearm, the one holding her. The grip broke. Lily fell forward, right into my arms, as the man screamed. "Ah!" I yanked her back, stumbling out of the room. Rex didn't let go. He dragged the man toward the floor, teeth locked, muscles straining. The man tried to shake him off, cursing, reaching with his free hand toward his waistband. Something metallic flashed. A knife. "Rex!" I choked. He jerked to the side, pulling the man's arm down, away from his pocket. They crashed into the dresser, picture frames shattered on the floor. From outside, voices shouted, "Police! Police!" Boots pounded down the hallway. Rex snarled, pinning the man's arm against the floor until two officers burst into the room with guns drawn. "Let the dog hold him! Get his other arm!" one officer yelled. They tackled the man, wrenching both arms behind his back while Rex finally backed away, chest heaving, teeth still bared. Handcuffs snapped shut. "Suspect in custody!" Lily was sobbing into my chest, her little arms strangling my neck. "Mommy, I was so scared." "I've got you," I whispered, kissing her hair. "You're safe. You're safe. You're safe." Rex stood between us and the officers, still on duty, still guarding, even as the danger was being dragged away. Only when the man was hauled out of the house did Rex finally breathe. He stepped closer, licked Lily's hand gently, then looked up at me with those deep, intelligent eyes. He had done it. He had chosen exactly when to attack and when to stop. He hadn't just fought. He'd protected. Later, in the living room, with paramedics checking Lily, officers filing reports, and red blue lights flashing outside, I sat on the couch with my daughter curled in my lap and Rex lying at our feet like a shield finally allowed to rest. Officer Hayes, one of the responding officers from before, stood in front of us, notebook in hand. He shook his head slowly. "You know," he said, glancing at Rex, "most people underestimate what these dogs can do." "I don't," I said, voice raw. "Not anymore." He looked at me seriously. "The men in the SUV, they were watching your house. This guy?" He nodded toward the hallway, where the hooded intruder was being let out in cuffs. "He was already on your property when we arrived last time. We found footprints near your window. Someone was trying to figure out your routines." My stomach twisted. "So they were, what, using the debt as an excuse to scare us?" "They were using the debt as leverage," he replied, "to pressure your husband, your father-in-law, and, eventually, you." I looked down at the folders still on the coffee table, the deed, the debt, the transfer, the secret hidden in the shed. Michael called that night. His voice was quiet, hollow, guilty. "Emily, I'm so sorry." I walked away from the noise, to the kitchen where it was just me and Rex. "You signed our house away," I said flatly. "You lied to me, you put our daughter in danger, and you let your father carry a secret that nearly destroyed us. On the other end, silence. Then, I thought I could fix it before you ever had to know." Tears stung my eyes. "That's not fixing it," I whispered. "That's burying it, in our yard, in a shed, behind my back." I glanced at Rex. He watched me with quiet focus, like he understood every word. "I'm coming back tomorrow," Michael said. "I'll explain everything. I'll do whatever it takes." "Good," I replied, "because this time, I'm not the one in the dark." I hung up. Rex walked over and rested his head against my leg. I sank to the floor, wrapping my arms around his neck. "You knew," I choked out. "You knew something was wrong with the shed, with the yard, with the people around us." He pressed closer, his heartbeat steady against my hands. Weeks passed. Michael came home, and under the hard fluorescent lights of a lawyer's office, he confessed every stupid, desperate, reckless decision he had made. The gambling, the loans, the lies. Richard spoke too, about fear, about wanting to protect Lily and me, about trying to control a storm he didn't cause but fed by staying silent. I didn't forgive them overnight. Some wounds don't close that fast. We hired an attorney, untangled the mess of debt, and forged signatures, reported everything we'd found. With the police and lawyers involved, the men who came for our house backed off. It wasn't easy, but we kept the house. On one condition, Michael signed a legitimate document this time. Not to give our home away, but to put my name as the primary owner. No more secrets, no more surprises hidden in sheds. And through all of it, Rex never left my side. Not at the lawyer's office, not in the waiting room, not when I cried in the kitchen at 2 a.m., thinking about how close we came to losing everything. One evening, as the sun set behind the fence, painting the backyard gold, I walked out to the shed with Rex. It was open now, empty. No more hidden folders, no more padlocks, no more secrets. I knelt beside Rex and scratched his chest. "You pulled me here," I said softly, remembering the first day. The wind, the paper sticking out from under the boards. "You didn't let this stay buried." He nudged my arm with his nose. I smiled through the sting in my eyes. "Everyone talks about how humans train dogs," I whispered. "But I think, sometimes, it's the dog who trains us. trains us to listen, to trust our instincts, to confront what we don't want to see. From the living room window, I could see Lily's small frame pressed against the glass, watching us, waving. "Come on, hero," I said, standing up. Rex wagged his tail. We walked back toward the house together. Our house, still ours, still standing. Because one dog refused to ignore what was wrong, because one dog pulled me to the truth. Sometimes, the most dangerous secrets in a family aren't hidden in phones or messages. They're hidden in paperwork and silence. And sometimes, the only one brave enough to drag those secrets into the light is the dog scratching at a locked door in your backyard. Rex didn't just guard our home, he guarded the truth. And because of that, he guarded our future.